Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel, and I know, crazy, I'm doing more content, but I thought I'd do kind of like a 10 best books, but not really. I don't think it will count. Basically, last year my reading year was really shocking. So I'm probably going to do a worst books because I think there'll be a lot more on there, but I only read 7 books that got 5 stars overall. A couple of them are 4 and 4.5, so they're honourable mentions, but I thought I'd just go through some of the best books that I liked in 2023, which was a miracle, because I was in a bad mood all of 2023, which definitely has some sort of impact on my reading. So, the first book I read of the year was a 5-star, which is amazing. But that was Stephen King's Fairy Tale. Now, King is a divisive author. He is a little bit problematic, and when I say a little bit, I mean a lot. But Fairy Tale was amazing. When I tell you I loved this book, It was so interesting. I really was drawn into the story. It didn't feel like a Stephen King book. And I was just, yeah, I absolutely loved it. If you haven't picked this up and you're umming and ahhing, like, please do it. Also, this cover is so beautiful too. I am here for it all day, every day. One of the best King books I have ever read. So, top tier. So this won't be a surprise to anyone, but Madeline Miller's Song of Achilles. I was so worried about this book because I didn't like Circe when I read it. And I don't know if my mood has something to do with that, because the Song of Achilles, beautiful, incredible writing. I bawled my eyes out. I was so sad throughout this book. Honestly, oh, I can't even sum it up. I can't even put into words how much I love this book. I am gonna reread it. I know I will. I'm even gonna give Circe a second chance. Just how much I loved this book. 5 stars. 5 out of 5 stars. And Patroclus and Achilles forever. Oh, honestly, loved it. Again, this shouldn't be a surprise, but A Kind of Spark by Elle McNichol. I'd never read this before. This made me look at the world completely differently. This follows a girl called Addie who has autism, and it just shows how so much of the world is not made for people who are different. And I adored it. It made me cry, it made me laugh. It's just so good. And I also really enjoyed the CBBC series the BBC did. It was on point. Like, the adaptation was incredible. And Own Voices authors, more of this please. I absolutely loved it, and I can't wait for the Keely book that is on the way. So, or is it out? Someone will tell me. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. Thank you so much to Emma. I've linked them down below. Their YouTube, they're great, and they recommended this book to me, and I'm so truly thankful. I loved it. There's actually quite a few Emma recommendations on this list. I've just realised because I know what's coming up. So the next one is technically a 4.5 stars, but on Goodreads I did bump it up, and it was a reread. And that is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. So this used to be my favourite book of all time until I read Clara and the Sun, which I haven't reread this year. I read last year, so I might reread it this year, perhaps. But Night Circus, it is so lovely. I don't think I can tell you anything more about it than you probably already know, to be honest with you. But I really like this. It's so gentle, so lovely, and yeah, the tabs, forevermore. I can't say anything about it really without spoiling it because it's so amazing and whimsical, and yeah, I really enjoyed rereading it, but it didn't hold up as well as like the magic of the first time reading it. I think you can really only experience this book once to truly appreciate what it's going for. But like, I picked up a lot more nuances this time, and I definitely will be rereading it just to see if things change the more I read it, which it could do, you never know. The next one might be a bit of a surprise. It was a bit of a surprise to me. But the next book that I gave 5 stars, The Beautiful Ones by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. I won this from Hannah and Lydia M. October. I don't remember if this year or last year. I don't remember, but it was a Gothtober win. And I had no interest in reading this book. None. I had 0 interest. But it is one of Hannah's favourites. And when I tell you, this was not even on my radar to get 5 stars, but it did. It truly did, and it's so incredible. It follows Nina, and Nina is kind of like in a timeless setting, but it's definitely supposed to be historical, but not really. Kind of hard to explain. But she is part of high society, and she has these telekinetic powers, and she's not like super beautiful, so she kind of doesn't like feel like she fits in, and she falls in love with someone a lot older than her who's an absolute cad. But again, spoilers, so I'm not going to go too far into it. But I really enjoyed Nina's character. I enjoyed the political kind of like internal politics. Ugh, so good. And superpowers. What more can I say? Pick this up if you haven't. And if you like Silver and Moreno Garcia, you'll probably love this. So next is one that's downstairs and I'm lazy and I can't bother to go get it, but it's Vengeful by V.E. Schwab. It's a follow-up to Vicious and it's the Villains series. I absolutely love this series. It's one of the V.E. Schwab books that I'm so excited to read whenever I pick them up. I think the characters of Eli and Victor are just so intriguing. And yeah, if you don't know the Villains series by V. Schwab, I don't know what I can tell you, to be perfectly honest. So next up is an audiobook, and that is Red Rising by Pierce Brown. And again, Pierce Brown is problematic. Red Rising, I really like the first one. It is trials by combat, it is political stuff, it is discussions on race, politics, gender. It is so good. The twists and turns are all there. Again, another great sci-fi series that kind of reads like fantasy. It kind of reads like really high fantasy, and then you realise it's set in space, and those are the best. In my opinion, those are the best. The ones that aren't outright, this is sci-fi, slap you in the face. I love those, don't get me wrong. But Red Rising had a little bit of a fantasy mixed in there. So yeah, if you haven't read Red Rising, I would recommend it, but keep in mind the author. Maybe do some research on the author and make up your own mind there. So the last book I gave 5 stars to, another Elle McNichol, Like a Charm. This is witchy, it is great. I had forgotten I'd read this, and I think because I wanted to read it again, I listened to the audiobook, so I never read it physically, and I think I want to read it physically next time. The audiobook was really, really good from what I do remember, but yeah, we follow a girl called Ramya. Yeah, Ramya, and she's a witch, and I really enjoyed this. I thought this was a fun middle grade again, but yes, I do want to reread this again, but I know initially I gave it a 5 stars, and I haven't read Like a Curse yet, so maybe I should do a Like a Charm and Like a Curse together, because I love reading series together when I get around to it. But I don't really know what else I'm going to say about this one, because I genuinely don't remember, which makes me feel terrible, because I really love Elle McNichol's writing. I think Elle McNichol as an author, their writing style is so, it grips you. It's so good, and I really, really enjoy them as a middle grade writer. So, I have 2 honourable mentions to make it up to 10, because of course, and these 2 are very, very different from each other. So the first one is The Cabin at the End of the World. This one was recommended to me by Ali, I think. And they were going by Mythic Melancholy, but that probably isn't them anymore, so I'm going to tag their actual channel down below. But, holy shit, this book left me baffled, bemused, annoyed, a little bit angry, but I loved it. I hated the end, but I also loved the end. Because the thing is, I then watched the film adaptation and I hated that ending more. So, this is a horror about a LGBTQ plus gay couple and their daughter going to a cabin. And then they are attacked by this group of people who believe they are on God's mission to stop the apocalypse. And let me tell you, when they give this kind of like tale, they spin a very believable yarn. And like, there is some really gruesome scenes in this. Yeah, some of it is really, really gross. I really did like the film adaptation, but I think I wanted them to leave it more open-ended like they did with the book. But I definitely give this one a go. It is horror, it is great. Paul Tremblay is soon becoming one of those authors that I'm like, I know they're going to be good. I've got a couple of other books by them that I want to read, so I will be looking forward to that. And last but not least, on my honourable mentions 4-star list, you've just seen it, but that is Isaac and the Egg by Bobby Palmer. This was again recommended to me by Emma. They're tagged down below. Wonderful. This book is so good. It's literary, it's beautiful. Again, this book made me cry. It's heartbreaking. It's fucking weird. Like, weird, because you don't know what the fuck this egg is, but when you realise what's actually going on, when I tell you, heartbreaking. But was one of my favourites. It just didn't quite get the 5-star, and I don't know why. So I might reread it to see if it bumps up or goes down. I think it might have been a little bit because I wasn't overly sure what was going on all the time, which I don't think you need to be a good book. Like, don't get me wrong. So, yeah, this one has to be mentioned in this video because I did love this book and I read it in the summer. Yeah, and I definitely picked this up if you've seen it around and you're intrigued, you've seen people talking about it. I recommend it, highly, highly recommend it. And I believe this was actually a debut author too, which is super cool. So I'll be looking out for Bobby Palmer everywhere because I think, again, wonderful author. So yeah, as I said, my reading year of 2023 was not strong at all. However, I'm hoping 2024 will be better. Bit of a slow start though. I haven't read much and we're middle of February, and by this point I would have read like way more. But again, we're all reading at our own pace. It's okay to get into reading sprints. Of course it is. Reading slumps. So I think it's just important to look after ourselves and not beat ourselves up. Like, reading's supposed to be fun. It's not a hostage situation. Anyway, I'm babbling. So let me know if any of those books you've either read, you hated them, you loved them, or if you're planning on reading them this year. If you can't bother to do that, a book sack emoji is always welcome. But I'll see you in my next video. Thanks guys. Bye!